And you
Yes,
know,
thank you.
today here in Dubai, and I'm here in Dubai today, someone asked me, hey, it's kind of unusual to see you in your studio. I said, yes, my studio goes everywhere. And I'm here in Dubai, and it's Sunday, and it's free talk with Mr. B. We had a fabulous evening yesterday of awards, and I was a sponsor at the We Heist Awards event, so it was really, really a pleasure. I was able to share by giving back a few copies of my book to someone who's deserving, because there was a lot of very interesting and deserving people there. It's so nice to be with you guys again live, so it's a pleasure. Samina?
Yes, Mr. B, we did miss you over the last two episodes, I think. We weren't able to do that last week because you were in the Philippines, and then the week before that we had the guest, and the team went ahead with Rona, who was there with us, speaking about sharing your grace, how it is a blessing to be sharing whatever blessings you have. It's a blessing in disguise. It always comes to us where it is absolutely unknown, because what we have shared, and somewhere it's coming back to us, and we are paying forward to many people from what we have received maybe in the past. So we spoke a lot, and Rona was also telling us that how giving back and sharing one's grace is a representation of their own faith. So that was a very nice statement she made, and it was so true, is
And
what we felt.
yes, how did you enjoy, Sister Amir? And hi, Dedra. Welcome back. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Sister Mia, because you're on mute right now. I was asking, how did you enjoy last week's program? The idea of giving back something called grace. Is that something we can give and give back? And it was so well covered last week. We just wanted to follow up on grace.
Sister Mia, we are not able to hear you.
So you got disconnected,
I
or
can,
what is it?
no, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were asking how you enjoyed last week, and trying to bring the idea of grace. I felt so privileged that I'm gracing you all and the audiences with my presence, that sometimes we get so occupied in what we're doing. So I'm glad that you're here. Dedra, I'm very glad that you're here too, as we
Oh,
continue
thank
to
you.
as we continue to wrap up the whole idea of the grace. And I first thing came to my mind is gracing everyone with my presence. I don't know if that's good or not, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
Tell us, Sister Mia.
Yes. Well, firstly, yes, gracing yourself with gracing us all, I think, with your presence is a gift to us all and to yourself as well. We pray. But yes, greener grace is something that is so crucial. And the sad thing is, I think half of the people around us don't even realize they have grace within themselves to offer to others, let alone that they're receiving it. So it really becomes more tested, your grace, your gracious level, and that about you becomes more tested the more trials you encounter. And the trials you encounter can sometimes be from those that are very close to you and those that are not. But that is when your actual graceful side has to come through, the grace within you has to come through, and that's your true test of, am I really grace? Am I really defining grace here? How am I reacting to what this person has just done to me? It's so unexpected. How could they do this? So yeah, it's different levels for everybody, and I think I personally have stood that test of time, and I think I've passed it. I'm praying. I don't know what my book upstairs says, but I think I've passed it. But yeah, I learned that the hard way, the humble way, and yet it's very powerful. It's a very powerful tool to have if you are somebody who can have grace in the face of wrongdoings against you.
Or even right doing. It comes in both sides. Dedra, that's probably where you come in. You keep it balanced. You keep it very balanced.
I try to keep things very balanced always. And I agree with what Sister Mia was saying, that, I think that a lot of people don't realize that they actually have a lot to offer other people. And that to me is quite sad. And I mean, the fact that maybe your sense of self-worth is not there, to realize that just you yourself, your personality, you actually could give back to the people around you, and you could be an example for them. There's so many people with so many issues with self-esteem. I'm so sorry.
It's quite okay.
This is our podcast, though. Phone calls
free
and
talk.
everything.
This is a good commercial moment. Free talk, and we stay free. We want to be free, and no one is going to judge us because we are free.
Exactly. But yes, you're right. Balance is everything, and I think that going through diversity, going through hardship is definitely a great source of grace if you are really willing to look at it positively like that through being broken in many ways, it's how you put yourself back together that matters. You could actually become a work of art. I mean, the way you put yourself back together, and that could be an inspiration to people around you. So that you need to realize, that you may not, there was a quote about that, like, you may not be, everything may not be something to you, but you're everything to somebody, or something like that. You have to realize there are people in your life that you're a hero to, so you have to conduct yourself like one,
It's, oh God, all the names. Sameena, because I was going to ask you this, and I think you may have had this experience. Has anyone ever stepped on your foot and you apologize to them for having your foot in the wrong place?
Yeah, it's happened many times, though.
I
It
thought
has
so. Why I asked you. And the idea I'm asking here is there's a certain amount of graciousness that can come with us when we behave in a way that we make it seem like our foot was in the wrong place at the wrong time, why that person stepped on it. And so being gracious is another form of giving back, where you give them back the opportunity to apologize themselves for stepping on your foot, but your attitude or our rambunctiousness did not come out in a way that, what's going on? You stepped on my foot. Don't you know you stepped on my foot?
Yeah.
Being gracious is,
Yes, in itself, yes. There have been many instances, I must say, in life that I have come across where people have stepped on my foot. And instead of, I am in a situation at that time maybe where I really can't react at that moment. I really can't do immediately anything or explain to them or justify to them that saying that, you know what, you have your foot in the wrong place and you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. But no matter how much I try to explain, even maybe the person is not even understanding or realizing. Forget about understanding, it's not even no realization itself in the first place. So I have continued at those moments to gracefully do what I had to do.
Well, you're so much
Well
more
done.
graceful than I am that way, Sameena, because I think that you're still young. That's what's nice about you, is that, when you get older, I think maybe that little bit about gracefulness maybe goes away a little bit, because I tend to not give a crap, what people think anymore. If they step on my foot, I tell them all about it, especially like, you reminded me of like people here, I mean, in this country, who don't really like the idea of standing in an actual line. They just sort of herd, at a countertop or something, instead of stand in an orderly line. And I don't know
Absolutely.
how many times I'm like, excuse me, the line is this way, and I was already here. So,
So what I do sometimes is
know,
when I see someone throw trash on the ground or disrupt their paper indiscriminately, it's two things I do. I bring it to their attention and say, sorry, ma'am or sir, there, you just dropped by mistake an important piece of paper. Maybe you have something written on it. Do you need it? And so I see how they, I see if they will pick it up. Some
you're
have picked it
so
up and
nice,
some have
Mr.
not.
B. I swear, you're
But
so
it
nice.
wasn't, it wasn't trying to be nice, but I was trying to make the point even now with what is giving back grace. It's the same as smiling, it's the same as giving a greeting. When someone should smile at us first, or someone should greet us first, it's the same as holding the door open, that we can be graceful in our behaviors when we're trying to give back grace as a form of grace. Because the other grace,
True.
I was wondering if people were thinking grace only comes from that gift God gives when we don't deserve it. But the truth is, we give people around us many things that they don't deserve, like the benefit of the doubt. We know the person threw the trash in the ground, but we gave them the benefit of the doubt so they could correct their action. And that's a gracefulness and graceful behavior. And so that's what I was trying to drive that point home, you know?
Well, you know what? Maybe sometimes they need a mom to snap at them, you know. I mean, I have had the same experience of people dropping garbage on the beach, you know, when I've taken my kids to the beach and I go all mama on them, all Southern mama, like, excuse me, you dropped a bunch of garbage right here. You should be ashamed of yourself. Pick that up right now.
That's your mama form of giving back.
I have literally said that. Like, you should be embarrassed, you know, to have this sitting right here. It means you're not a very clean person. Pick it up.
Yes. I
That's
just like
good,
to.
though.
This is
Maybe their
where
own mama didn't do that.
this is where Sister Mia can balance us out. Sister Mia, you heard two views. Help us out.
Yeah, the thing is, you know what? There are a set of people in the crowd where, sorry, I don't know if Mr. B said Sister Mia. I heard it as Sameena.
Okay, both.
It's
So,
fine. Go ahead, Sameena.
okay, I'll just like to add this point, and then I'll let you share your piece. There's a set of people in the community, they are found everywhere, where irrespective of how many ever times you want to gracefully tell them, or indirectly tell them whatever it is, they need to be told directly, because the world has these set of people who will not respect you no matter what. It's
Exactly.
they Yeah, they
Agree.
have it in their mind, they have it in their attitude that yes, this person, okay, a mind block, that's it. I don't want to
Mhm.
listen, I don't want to do anything which this person is going to say, irrespective of it being the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever it is. So such people need to be told directly as well. It's
Yeah.
it's just what I wanted to say.
Okay, so let's see what Sister Mia said. I'll see if it's all balanced out. But it's a good point.
Yeah, what Sister Samina said now and what Sister Dedra had just said, both come together very, I must say. And here's why. It's because parts of gracefulness is back to someone or something that is offensive or wrong unto you or unto those around you. So your reaction is actually important. I mean, that's one thing I've learned. I've learned two things. One is that the more I try to let someone know that they in the wrong, the worse it becomes. So it actually becomes my reaction that has to alter to make that's necessary, because it's me that has to be comfortable now, because I can't change somebody else. I can't control what somebody else is thinking, saying, doing. I can't do that. The only person I can take control of is myself. So one of the things I can learn to control is how do I react to this that is so annoying, that is so irritating, without having to become controversial and wasting energies to try and fight with this person. So that's number one. The number two is when somebody needs to get told, how we tell it to them is the art of grace. Sometimes people like to get it verbally said to them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes that verbal, your simple, what Deidre just said, your simple, that's not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be put into a bin that's just down the road. You can take your dirt with you. That can be misconstrued as, well, it's not in your place, so find another space on the beach. And that just becomes a whole new different altercation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how we do it is key. Your reaction and how you actually do it, with what tone, etc. All of that matters. But the one thing I've learned is I just learned the art of grace is, you know what, Mehreen, you just control you. Assess the situation for what it needs. And if it's going to be a waste of your energy to speak, then you just react to what works for you best. Half the time, sadly, it's where I don't have to speak. It's just my action that speaks volumes.
Uh,
Um,
and,
Yeah.
and that's a good point, because as we have been going over for all year long in this season and speaking about the art of giving back all along with this team, we have brought out these balance points and these balanced views. And we're not necessarily telling our listeners how to go about their lives, but to just bring up ways of giving back. And each of the discussion points are ways of giving back. Some people need a mom telling them quite clearly what they're doing is wrong, like Dedra, like Dedra said. Some people need a balancing act, like Sameena would bring out, and some people need Sister Mia to tell them. And we don't all hold the responsibility to know what each person needs. So we develop our own personality of grace, our own personality of giving back, and and like what we said, not, we won't excuse our behavior because we think that is our personality. It's what we want to give back to the global community, and we should do it regardless. You know, unapologetic was what I'm looking for the word. We should be unapologetic about giving back different forms of grace. Because in that same tone, we would go to another person who we would say, "Oh my dear Lord, look at you. You need some shoes. You need some clothes," and give back to them. You need a place to sleep for the night and some food. So grace comes in many ways. But when you have to use the grace of discipline, it's still a form of grace where you're giving back something someone needs. And I think it's beautiful to have that balance and that diversity among us and the world.
Right. I think what you said something earlier about forgiveness, and I think it's very important to revisit that for a moment as well. That's another way to achieve a lot of good balance in your life, and I have found that to be 100. I'm very familiar with that. Lots of forgiveness needed, for my cheery attitude, to maintain itself in this world. And that's exactly the point. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the person who has wronged you. You don't. There's a saying. It goes something like, if you're angry and you keep the anger, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from it.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything to them. It's going to hurt you only. So it's very important to just let it go. Let the
Yes.
anger go, forgive for your own sake.
And
And that's another way you can demonstrate how fights and resolutions, can happen, conflict resolution. It's a wonderful model, to set people, that it's just not worth it sometimes to hang on to all this anger. I mean, what would the world be if countries could do that,
yeah.
Seriously.
And Tamina, we can see again the other angles that came with grace, the other angle about being graceful, about being gracious, and about exercising humility and, and knowing when to bow out or even allow someone else to bow out, and all of those different types of grace. And since we received freely, these things we give freely. How do you take this note? I want to make sure before we even get to the end of this podcast, how do you see the comparative difference between what we spoke about now and last week's grace conversation?
Yes, it was good learning in both episodes. Different people sharing different perspectives, and what Miss Dedra as well as Sister Mia and yourself shared just now in terms of how being graceful is very important. And what we spoke earlier was with our guest Rona, who I did mention at the beginning of the episode that she mentioned that what we are, is a representation of our own faith in what we believe and what kind of a
Amen.
personality we are.
Yes.
So in terms of what I learned from both the episodes is very very crucial, and believe me, it's like I think at least 3 times in the week I recall that statement that we are a representation of our own faith. That's why I remember it so well, and these podcasts in a way have given back to me, and I'm very very thankful to the team, to you, Mr. B, for this is your grace. You have shared your grace with us, and this is
Thank
absolutely
you.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
And Sister Mia, please add a little.
Well, yes, I have to agree with Samina, of course, because yes, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now and reaching so many people as we are. So thank you for that, and thank God for that. The one thing I do want to mention, just to add quickly, is that as much as you are the representation of your faith, you are also the representative of you. And you need to really learn to align yourself with what grace means for you. If you're talking grace, what does it mean? It's not necessarily all about finance, etc. When we talk about forgiveness, for example, as Dedra said earlier, forgiveness is key for you to keep growing and keep going, regardless of what you may be facing. Sometimes forgiveness is what I'm going to tell the person I forgive them. No, it's your silent sense of forgiveness. That is you connecting with your creator, and that is you just making your peace with yourself. And that is your silent growth where you actually gain more grace from. So when you're wronged in such a way that you can't, you feel like I can't deal anymore, and you just sit there and you say, well, you know what, dear Lord, this is now all from you. It's for you now. I'm giving it all back to you to deal with. That's where your grace comes in, because that's when you learn the silent sense of forgiveness of everybody that's wronged you. And that art of grace then comes through, comes forth through you. And no matter what comes your way, that adversity that you.
That's correct. Okay. And Dedra, I have to enunciate well on purpose for all of us. And Dedra, Rona covered her angle, her approach, and the many people that wronged her. And she used her faith to hold herself or the fabric of what makes her Rona intact. And she was making sure, it seemed like that no one was going to break down that fabric of her bubble just because they wronged her or they supposedly assumed that she wronged them. So that's an aspect that I like. I think you can cover that one point so we can close out just fine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that, gosh, I'm trying to frame this in a way that covers all of that. I mean, yes, faith is crucial. I mean, I just don't know how people get by without it. I mean, not that I'm saying one is better than the other, or there's anything like that. Choose your faith, choose what makes sense to you and what gives you hope and strength and power, and really let it guide you. This is the thing. I mean, I don't understand how people actually get through issues in their life without holding on to something. I know it was crucial for me, to get through troubles in my own life and to be able to come to that forgiveness that we just talked about, because, there's and you're right. I mean, representing my faith has always been incredibly important to me, because especially in my case, because if you see me dressed in a non-Islamic way, for example, you would think automatically, oh, she's just a good old Southern Christian gal, or something. But I mean, if you see me dressed in this way, you automatically know, like, oh, wait a minute, I think she might be Muslim, I mean, so it's very important to be representative of that. That's why I've always kept the Shayla on, and why I try to make sure to handle things peacefully and resolve issues in a peaceful way, because we need to spread that, as much as we can between every faith, between every nationality, and you're right, it does represent you yourself, like where you're from, how you were raised, what kind of a person you are. Basically, your whole brand, is under attack, when you're outside, dealing with people. No, not to put it down into economical terms, you yourself are a brand, whether you want to believe that or not, and the way you talk to people, the way you interact, does come back, to either set an example or to make people call you a phony, so
Yeah,
you have
so
to,
what I wanted to
so
do
we
for
don't, we
sure,
definitely don't want that.
yeah, because what I wanted to do for sure was, and I'm sorry for taking over so much, Sameena, I wanted to wanted to really show appreciation for Rona coming on and sharing her deep inner thoughts, and maybe even exposing, as a representation of humanity, all of the things that hold us together, the fabric that makes us up. And everyone, like every fingerprint and every DNA is different. It's different for everyone. And no one leaves their house thinking, I'm not going to give back grace today. I think everyone leaves their home and think that they're going to be as graceful as they can be today to get through that particular day. And that's what we are talking about here on Free Talk. That's the art of giving back. And that's one of the considerations we use from the nugget of giving back, that we should give back grace as a form of giving back by being a graceful person. So thank you so much, guys. You know, like we said, these
You.
episodes go by so fast. Thank you, Dedra. Thank you, Mia. And what do you think, Samina? You get to
Thank you,
get to
Mr.
have a
Yes,
B. It's always so much fun.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I really look forward to this, and I was missing it last week when we did, when we skipped an episode. And we look forward to the next nugget. That's nugget number 17, where we give back to those who have wronged us. I think
yes,
that's what we're going to pick up this week. Yeah.
and we'll see if we can find
Yeah.
others to
Well,
speak
this
for us.
leads directly into that. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, yes, it does.
Thank you, and we look forward to it. Okay, we will let you all go because we have Yumi and Icy coming up next, so we're looking forward to
Coming up next.
it.
Sure. Definitely. All the best, you guys. And I look forward to seeing you, Mr. B, in Dubai.
Thank you.
See you.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye bye.
Bye.